Good morning. It is Friday, November 30th. A Fox News alert. Any moment now, President Trump sitting down for breakfast with the Argentine president ahead of the G20 summit. We understand they're just wrapping that up.
Yeah, there's a lot to be expected from this summit. The new trade agreement that the president is expected to sign with Canada and Mexico today. We'll have more on that.
We have a very hard time. We are almost to the end of our strength. We're a migrant town here, yes, but we have never had this problem.
And taking Tijuana to the tipping point.
The mayor telling Fox News they cannot sustain the caravan economically. The one-on-one interview you won't see anywhere else.
Jeez, incredible fire rescue video out of California showing officers just feet away from a wall of flames.
Fox and Friends First continues right now.
And good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Friday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. Let's get straight to this Fox News alert now. A deputy U.S. Marshal is shot and killed trying to serve a warrant. The suspect, Ryan Schelzinger, shooting the officer while barricaded inside a home in Arizona. Oh, my God. Get behind the car. Hurry up. Go. Go inside.
Now, Schlesinger eventually surrendered and is under arrest. He was already wanted for stalking law enforcement. The name of the deputy killed has not been released. We will keep you posted on that story, of course. Also breaking right now, 3 people dead, 8 others injured after a truck crashes while trying to escape Border Patrol. Agents trying to pull over that truck on a California highway less than 10 miles from the southern border when the driver took off at speeds of about 100 miles an hour. The truck losing control, smashing into an embankment after hitting a spike strip. We're not sure exactly who was killed in that accident, but the American truck driver of that truck has been arrested.
Tijuana's mayor is now taking aim at the organizers of the migrant caravan, saying he's never seen a situation like this. The mayor sitting down for an exclusive interview with Fox News, and Griff Jenkins is embedded with the caravan in Mexico. He joins us live from Tijuana. Griff.
Guys, good morning. It is unbelievable. It's rained for the last 24 hours, and this 6,000 migrant encampment is absolutely overrun. Take a look at these images. They've moved into the street. It's been in the 50s now for 24 hours, and trash is everywhere. They're flooded out. You look at the trash coming here. It's amazing. We've been looking here at what's on the ground, even some pills, because remember, they've got more than 60% have the flu, have respiratory infections. They have tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, and a lice infection. But I want you to see inside. We can't go in at night. They're protected, but look at what the damage is in there now. The mayor, Juan Manuel Gastelum, is at the center of it. He's footing the entire bill for all of this, $30,000 a day. He says he can't continue, and he blames the organizers. Listen.
Those are really criminals because they're dealing with lives. They're dealing with people. It's a federal crime. If they ask me, do you know who they are? No, I don't know, but just look at the films. Look at them and you'll find who are they.
And remember what happened on Sunday? Well, that's some of those films he's talking about. Interestingly, CBP did not arrest any of the 42 that got over the fence, but he says that was an extremely costly day for the residents of Tijuana. Listen.
People from San Diego cross the border to work in Tijuana. People from Tijuana cross the border to work in the United States. In those 6 hours that the border was closed, we lost approximately 129 million pesos. That's not fair. So how do you think people from Tijuana feel towards those people who are making problems?
Mayor Gastelum says that he hopes the federal government will step in. The new Mexican president, inaugurated tomorrow, will step in and help out here. They're trying to possibly move some of these people today, but the weather's not cooperating at the moment, guys.
All right, Griff, thank you very much for that update. Yeah, pouring rain for days. All right, in addition to stemming the flow of illegal immigration, President Trump has to stop the flow of drugs across the border.
And Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce is slamming partisan politics for putting their differences with the president before the safety of the American people.
90% of the opioids, the fentanyl, the synthetic that is coming into this country is from Mexico. It is from the southern border. It's a combination of Chinese influence as well, but it's Mexican. It's the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. So in order to deal with this, Tucker, we'd have to actually talk seriously about border security, and we can't do that because then that would make Donald Trump look right. So we've got so many Americans being sacrificed because politicians don't want to have a conversation about security at the border.
Mexico's new president officially takes office tomorrow. Washington is pushing for his administration to crack down harder on the violent cartels responsible for smuggling drugs into the U.S. And any moment now, President Trump will be kicking off the G20 summit at a bilateral breakfast with the president of Argentina. Later today, he will sign the NAFTA replacement with leaders from Canada and Mexico.
Todd Pyro joins us live with a preview of all this. Hey, Todd.
Hey, guys, we're monitoring what's going on there in Argentina for you. We'll keep you posted throughout the course of the morning. Meantime, all eyes on the president as he meets with those leaders. Happening moments now, the president is going to sit down with the Argentine president, Mauricio Macri, for that bilat. But one leader not on his schedule, Russian President Vladimir Putin. The president announcing the cancellation of that meeting on Twitter, saying, quote, based on the fact that the ships and sailors have not been returned to Ukraine from Russia, I have decided it would be best for all parties concerned to cancel my previously scheduled meeting in Argentina with President Vladimir Putin. I look forward to a meaningful summit again as soon as the situation is resolved. Last weekend, you'll recall, Russian forces attacked 3 Ukrainian ships in the Crimean Sea, wounding 6 sailors. Senator Elizabeth Warren firing back at the cancellation.
Vladimir Putin testing Donald Trump. That's what this is about. And he's just trying to figure out how far can we push him. And what will the president do by way of response?
Senator Lindsey Graham giving Putin his own words of advice.
I want Putin to understand that if you trample over international norms, you're finally going to pay a price.
And a much anticipated meeting today between President Trump, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. They are expected to sign the replacement of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, after reaching that deal in September. Also, a meeting with China's President Xi Jinping this weekend could pave the way for a deal with the U.S. The two expected to talk trade at dinner tomorrow. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Okay.
And President Trump demanding the Mueller probe come to an end immediately. The president tweeting that the investigation is an illegal hoax and, quote, Mueller refuses to look at the real crimes on the other side. Where is the IG report? His tweet comes after his former attorney, Michael Cohen, pleads guilty to lying about knowledge on the proposed Trump Tower project in Moscow. The president's current lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, tells the New York Times that the president's response aligns with Cohen's plea. Meanwhile, a key witness in the Russia investigation says a criminal complaint against Robert Mueller could come down as soon as today. Attorneys for conservative author Jerome Corsi say the document will outline how the special counsel and Mueller's team prompted Corsi to allegedly lie under oath and commit other violations like witness tampering. Corsi rejected a plea deal offer from Mueller this week.
Fired FBI Director James Comey wants the feds to squash a subpoena that's asking him to testify behind closed doors. He previously said that he would rather answer questions about the 2016 election and Russia and Hillary Clinton investigations publicly when he's due on Capitol Hill on Monday. Comey's attorneys argue that it would stop the committees from using the private hearing to push a political agenda. One of President Trump's judicial nominees now seemingly destined to fail. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott announced that he will not support Thomas Farr's nomination. The Republican cited a 1991 memo that connects Farr to a voter intimidation campaign against black voters. Scott's decision prevents Farr from being confirmed, at least at this time, because Republican Jeff Flake and every Democrat, they are all no's. And you needed Tim Scott to get him in. All right, Vice President and Second Lady, Vice President Pence, I should say, and Second Lady Karen decking the halls of the Naval Observatory. Law enforcement officers and their kids invited to a holiday celebration inside the Vice President's residence.
Also ready for Christmas, the White House. Our own Ainsley Earhart getting an exclusive tour of First Lady Melania Trump's decorations.
You could see the color red. It represents the bravery, heart, and patriotism. Every room has a different representation, and this year it's a theme of American treasures.
It took 230 volunteers 6 days to decorate the White House, and we will have the full tour on the next hour of Fox and Friends.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see.
Cool, yeah.
All right, 10 minutes after the hour, President Trump making it clear that he's not going to be meeting with Vladimir Putin during the G20 summit for a multitude of reasons, it would appear. National security analyst Dr. Rebecca Grant says that this doesn't mean that Putin is off the hook. She explains what she's talking about there, coming up next.
And your presence is a present to JetBlue. Hell, the airline literally wants to wrap you up and send you home for the holidays. Don't go anywhere.
You can on me.
Good morning and welcome back. President Trump canceling his meeting with Vladimir Putin to send a message to the Kremlin about their aggression against Ukraine.
I think this is the right signal at the right time, and I appreciate that, and I hope it will be followed up by more decisive action when it comes to the misdeeds of Putin.
All right, so does this send the right message to the rest of the world, and what can we expect when the president addresses other G20 leaders?
Joining us now with her expert insight is international relations expert Dr. Rebecca Grant. Doctor, thank you for your time this morning. What do you think of the news when the president decided to officially cancel this meeting?
He's done the right thing, and he's canceled this because Russia fired on Ukrainian Navy ships and then seized them and held them. He's trying to send a very strong message. NATO backs this up. This is the first open and direct use of Russian military force against Ukraine, and so an essential step. We have to contain Russia's ambitions.
You know, a lot of people think that it was partly because of what's happening in Ukraine right now, but also because the Russia investigation and Bob Mueller has exploded with activity here in the last couple of days, and it might not optically look good to be hanging out with Vladimir Putin in Buenos Aires. What do you think about that?
I really don't see that at all, and Putin is not off the hook. Angela Merkel has taken on the task of meeting with him to raise the issue of the tensions in Ukraine. There's a possibility of even more Russia sanctions, so there is plenty going on in the world, and I think that is what President Trump is reacting to. We've also seen an increase of NATO military forces, more NATO air policing over the Black Sea. It's a very serious situation, and I don't think this domestic issue has much at all to do with President Trump's international response.
Here's one of President Trump's tweets on this. He says, quote, based on the fact that the ships and sailors have not been returned to Ukraine from Russia, I have decided it would be best for all parties concerned to cancel my previously scheduled meeting. And then in another tweet, he says, in Argentina with President Vladimir Putin, I look forward to a meaningful summit again as soon as this situation is resolved. I think most people, Doctor, agree that this meeting is going to happen at some point, but the question is when.
And there is an invitation for Putin to visit the U.S. at some point. Trump and Putin need down the road, sometime in 2019, to talk again about nuclear arms control. They need to talk about space, and they need to talk about Syria. But now Ukraine has really come to the top of the list, and Putin is pushing Ukraine closer and closer to NATO. So I expect to see discussions about Ukraine as well, but this is just not the moment. Now, Trump may encounter Putin there at the summit, but this is an important step that he's taken to deny this meeting at this time. Good move on his part.
Yeah. All right, to another interesting topic, and another guest at the G20 summit will be, well, I guess the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia. But you have this conflict in Yemen, this civil war. The Americans, the U.S. has been backing the Saudis and trying to fight this terrorist group that's been trying to take over in Yemen that's backed by Iran. And now it looks like we're not going to be funding that anymore, or at least that's what the Senate is voting for pretty handily, to stop the support of the Saudis. What do you think about that?
Yes, and Rob, there's a huge backstory here, which is, according to Secretary Mattis, the sides in the Yemen conflict are pretty close to starting some serious negotiations in Sweden. There's a ceasefire that's supposed to take place. We've seen fighting diminish a lot since the middle of November. So although the Senate has said no more funding going forward, in fact, the UN Special Envoy is working to get a ceasefire, and we're hoping for negotiations. So the Pentagon is starting to plan for a massive humanitarian relief effort. And Saudi Arabia and the UAE have pledged over $500 million to fund relief supplies into Yemen.
Doctor, the president has faced pretty tough criticism over his handling of Saudi Arabia. What do you think about how he's handled it?
Yes, he has, and I think he's handled it fairly well. You know, Secretary Mattis said that he had actually listened personally to the translation of what went on, and, you know, there's no smoking gun is what we've been told. Saudi Arabia remains a key ally. They're a member of the G20, the only Arab nation in the G20. We're not giving up that alliance, but the best thing for Saudi Arabia right now is to take this chance, show their humanity to the world, put this ceasefire into place in Yemen, and then back it up with the humanitarian relief that they have pledged to the Yemen situation.
And this is kind of this whole thing has been kind of a gift to Iran by backing off the support for the Saudis here. It's interesting to see how that plays out. All right, Doctor, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
And a Fox News alert, a live picture from Argentina right now. President Trump expected to leave for a bilateral breakfast with the Argentine president any moment.
We're going to take you there live just as soon as it happens. It's about 7:18 there in Buenos Aires. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Evacuations ordered overnight as a lot of rain has brought flash floods and mudslides to fire-ravaged portions of California. Families up and down the state ordered to leave their homes as streets filled with mud, ash, and debris after everything burned and all the rain came down. A dramatic water rescue in the very swollen, unusually swollen L.A. River. Look at this. Rescue teams pulling up a man clinging to a semi-submerged tree. Look at all of that water in L.A. And overseas, flash floods carving a path of destruction in the nation of Turkey. Cars swept down the street in the resort town right on the Aegean Sea. Wow, that is something. In Canada, 90-mile-per-hour winds ripping the roof right off a restaurant in Newfoundland. That storm also bringing down power lines, uprooting trees. There's a lot of weather around the world right now.
Yeah. 2 men are recovering this morning after surviving a plane crash on the campus of Kennesaw State University. The plane headed to Fulton County Airport from Omaha, Nebraska, when it went down on the Georgia campus. Early indications point to engine failure as the cause. Police say the 2 people in the small plane were conscious and alert when officers arrived. Wow.
AT&T taking on Netflix by unveiling a new video streaming service.
That's right. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, is here with how they're reassuring their big money investors. So what's this about, Tracy?
Yes, good morning. AT&T trying to get into other businesses besides wireless and besides their traditional pay TV service. So they're coming out with this new streaming service next year. They're going to have 3 tiers of it, and they're going to have original movies and television series from Warner Brothers, Turner, and HBO. So they're obviously trying to take on Netflix, obviously also trying to compete with Disney's new streaming service that will be coming out. AT&T didn't say how much these tiers would cost or which movies and TV shows would go along with the tiers. But one other thing AT&T trying to do to reassure those investors, they're saying they're going to pay down debt, possibly sell some assets to pay for the acquisition of Time Warner.
That's interesting. So JetBlue wants to wrap you up like a gift and send you home?
Yes, this is a great idea for the holidays. JetBlue, they're going to be picking 5 winners of this Go Get Gifted contest. And they will wrap you up like a present with a bow on top, deliver you to your destination so you can surprise your loved ones for the holidays. So you can enter now through December 12th. Go to JetBlue's website. Tell them why you deserve to win this contest, and they will pick 5 winners.
They're not really going to wrap you, though, right?
Yes, I think they are.
How do you sit on the plane, then?
They're going to stick you down with the luggage in the bottom.
They're going to maybe wrap you before you get there. Maybe you can be on the plane in regular clothing and then get gift wrapped in once you arrive.
That's an interesting idea, Tracy.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
And a Fox News alert, President Trump expected to leave for a bilateral breakfast with the Argentine president any minute now.
He's got some really big meetings coming up in the next few days at the G20 summit, including one that he's already canceled, and also signing a new trade agreement today with Mexico and Canada.
He's also expected to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Saturday to talk trade. We will take you live to Argentina coming up. Stay with us. For a bilateral breakfast with Argentine President Mauricio Macri.
Yeah, the two here chatting. It's almost 7:30 in the morning in Argentina. If we have audio, let's go ahead and listen in.
All right, looks like we're getting that audio set up. But, I mean, Rob, as we've been talking about this morning, a number of important meetings scheduled, and then one specifically that we've been talking about with Vladimir Putin has already been canceled.
Right, yeah. The president trying to get the words in English there in his ear as the president there speaks there in Buenos Aires this morning. And yes, this is a big set of meetings the president has.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to pull out of that. We're going to get back to it.
We're going to go back
to it,
second,
of course.
yeah.
As soon as they start speaking in English and everybody can understand, we'll go back.
But yeah, I mean, some of the highlights here, of course, we talked about what the president's expected to do today. We can see him already getting his day started, but we know on Saturday he's expected to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, talk about trade there.
Yeah, and there's been indications from his economic team that there could be a deal in the works with China, and that would really relieve a lot of the stress on American businesses and could do a lot of good for our economy to know that that gets straightened out if the United States gets a good deal, and the indications are that the president wouldn't sign a bad deal because he doesn't like bad deals. So we'll see where that goes. But it was interesting also with the Mueller investigation really ramping up this week, and with the situation in Ukraine, he cancels a meeting with Vladimir Putin right after he took off for Buenos Aires yesterday.
You know, a lot of the reaction to that, though, has been that it was the right move to make right now. And we just heard from Dr. Rebecca Grant a couple minutes ago saying that now is not the time to sit down with Vladimir Putin. With the news that happened over the weekend near Crimea, as you talked about, between Russia and Ukraine. And so, you know, that meeting is expected to happen at some point, just not now.
Yeah, and it's I think optically it wouldn't be good after all of the criticism you got for what happened in Helsinki. To meet with Vladimir Putin right now probably wouldn't look good. Let's go ahead and listen in. I guess we want to listen in.
Argentina, that they will bet on Argentine talent and that they will help us build quality jobs. Also, tourism is very important. We are getting more and more citizens from around the world, but the country that is exporting most tourists to Argentina is the United States, which I think shows the affection from the Argentine people for Argentina and the interest in our country. So thank you very much for visiting us. We'll be having a meeting, and I'm sure we'll find a whole lot more ways to work together and cooperate for the benefit of our people and the people of the United States. Thank you, Donald, for being here.
I think I understood you better in your language, and that's okay. I want to just say that I've been friends with Mauricio for a long time, many years. People would know that he was a very young man, very handsome man, and we knew each other very well. And I actually did business with his family, with his father, his great father. He was a friend of mine. And I purchased the West Side Railroad yards. And it was a great job, a successful job, a very big job, one of the largest jobs in Manhattan. That was in my civilian days.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Overnight, Vice President Pence meeting the remains of 2 fallen special ops troops at Dover Air Force Base. The bodies of Army Captain Andrew Ross and Air Force Staff Sergeant Dylan Elchin returning to the U.S. Those American heroes, along with Army Sergeant First Class Eric Emmons, killed by the Taliban in a roadside bombing. 13 U.S. service members have been killed in Afghanistan this year, 5 this month alone. Well, New Jersey lawmakers will soon grill hospital officials on a deadly virus that killed 11 children. The adenovirus, blamed for the deaths at a nursing and a rehab center over the last several weeks. The respiratory virus has symptoms that are similar to a cold. The New Jersey Senate Health Committee wants to figure out how the virus infected patients to determine what the state's responsibility may be. Well, let's turn to Senator Jeff Flake, who will ask for a third time for a vote on a bill to protect special counsel Robert Mueller. The Arizona Republican tells The Hill, quote, "There have been suggestions that I should accept a sense of the Senate that sends the wrong message to the president. This is the message that needs to be sent to the president, passage of this bill." Well, Nancy Pelosi is threatening to demand Mueller protection language in the upcoming spending bill, although the president said multiple times he's not going to shut it down. Well, he beat big names in NASCAR to win his first title. Driver Joey Logano gets his champion ring, making his mark in NASCAR.
Please wear this ring with pride, because all of us at NASCAR are very proud to have you as our champion.
It was a big night in Vegas. The 28-year-old was honored there at the award ceremony. He clinched the title in the season's final race at Homestead Miami Speedway earlier this month. So congratulations to him. Well, President Trump may hold off on Chinese tariffs until the spring as a way to cool the simmering tensions before tomorrow's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Well, but the president says that it doesn't mean that he's backing down on striking a better deal.
I think we're very close to doing something with China, but I don't know that I want to do it. I think China wants to make a deal. I'm open to making a deal. But frankly, I like the deal we have right now.
Well, here to discuss is Peter Morici. He's the former U.S. International Trade Commission and professor at the University of Maryland. Thank you so much for joining us, Peter. We always love having you here.
Good morning.
So going to be very busy, and now that the president has canceled his meeting with Putin, this will, of course, take center stage. What do you expect to happen?
Well, I expect that China will make some kind of offer, and it'll be largely the same offer they made George Bush, that they made Barack Obama. Let's have some sort of framework for discussions. Let's have some sort of agreement to negotiate away our problems, because essentially they would like to bicycle the president through the end of his first term. I think it would be a mistake for the president to accept that. I think it would be a mistake for him to freeze tariffs where they are.
So most of President Trump's tariffs right now, they're 10%. So how is that impacting things, and should they stay the same?
Well, you know, the Wall Street Journal every day seems to have an article that it's doing something draconian to somebody. But the reality is China's let its currency fall by more than 7% since the tariffs went in. So it's negated most of it. Also, its suppliers are cutting their prices a bit. So the reality is, if you look at the trade data, they're not having much effect at all. Where they do have effect is where they have perverse effects. For example, putting tariffs on bicycle parts, but letting Chinese bicycles in without a tariff. So that actually encourages, you know, our bicycle assemblers, for example, to find a way to move offshore. It has a perverse effect. That's one of the reasons we can't freeze this thing. We need to basically move the tariffs up to 25%. And also to fix the kinds of problems I just described. It's understandable that it happened the first time around, but now's the time to fix them.
So
it would be a terrible mistake not to move forward.
So some other issues, intellectual property protection, coerced technology transfer, subsidies to state-owned enterprises, non-trade issues like cyber espionage, all those expected to be part of the discussion as well.
Absolutely. You know, Microsoft's got this fantastic computer personality. This adolescent, she's actually now 18. She's grown up to 18. Really has an emotional side to her. It's not just, you know, doing computations. She does artwork. She writes poetry, things of this nature. It's a fascinating personality. It was developed in a Chinese laboratory, and they have to do it there to basically get intellectual property protection there, basically not to get their software ripped off. That process is developing Chinese engineers, and it's leaving out Americans.
Yeah,
that's a very sad situation. That happens repeatedly, over and over and over again. You know, I don't know where Secretary Mnuchin gets this idea that we can negotiate with these people after we've negotiated with them through 3 presidents, and we have this massive trade deficit with them. What's more, they're just ripping off what we spend billions of dollars to develop.
Well, it's something that President Trump has hit incredibly hard from the moment he started campaigning for president. First thing he ever talked about was China and the trade deficit. So we will see what happens in this meeting coming up at the G20 summit. Thank you so much, Peter. We appreciate you.
All best. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. You've heard of sanctuary cities for illegals. Well, how about a sanctuary city for law-abiding gun owners?
I felt that it was such a blatant disregard for constitutional rights that I felt like I had no choice but to stand up for the people that I serve.
The police chief putting his foot down, refusing to enforce new gun restrictions. And you can run, but you can't hide. Look at this. The runners who were caught. First, border agents seized nearly $3 million worth of drugs along the California-Mexico border. 39 people under arrest accused of trying to smuggle narcotics across 6 ports of entry. 15 are charged with human trafficking or immigration violations. Agents confiscating 625 pounds of drugs, including meth and fentanyl. New Jersey's Attorney General, in the meantime, is ordering state and local law enforcement agencies to limit cooperation with ICE. It is intended to strengthen trust, he says, between police and immigrant communities. This just weeks after learning a suspect in a triple murder was an illegal immigrant released from a New Jersey prison instead of being handed over to immigration authorities. Well, a small city in Washington is looking to pass a gun rights sanctuary ordinance. A little different here. Dan Springer brings us the latest as the police chief says he will not enforce the state's new gun restrictions.
Man, I appreciate what you're doing. In tiny Republic, Washington, Police Chief Loren Culp is a local celebrity after saying he would not enforce the law, or one state law, Initiative 1639, a sweeping gun control measure.
I felt that it was such a blatant disregard for constitutional rights that I felt like I had no choice but to stand up for the people that I serve.
The new gun law bars 18 to 20-year-olds from buying semi-automatic rifles and makes it a potential felony if your gun ends up in the wrong hands. It also creates enhanced background checks and mandatory firearms training. Voters across Washington state passed the measure 59 to 41%, but in Ferry County, nearly 3 out of 4 voters opposed it. Mayor Elbert Kuntz is considering an ordinance proposed by Chief Culp to make Republic a sanctuary city for gun rights.
Everybody in Republic has a gun. We don't have a giant crime rate because nobody in their right mind is going to come to a house where people have guns and know how to use them.
When Chief Culp announced his sanctuary city proposal, he got a standing ovation. The Second Amendment Foundation, along with the NRA, sued to strike down the new state law. Its leader sees poetic justice in gun rights advocates getting into the sanctuary business, up until now reserved for illegal immigrants. The Attorney General, Democrat Bob Ferguson, a gun control advocate, says he will review the measure if it passes. In Republic, Washington, Dan Springer, Fox News.
Well, the time now is about 15 minutes until the top of the hour, and the media going crazy over a conspiracy theory connecting Paul Manafort with Julian Assange.
If it's true, of course, the implications are explosive, right? What the heck would he been doing having that meeting if it actually happened?
A lot of ifs there. Will they take the bait for any Russia conspiracy these days? We debate up next. Back, AT&T is taking on Netflix by unveiling a new video streaming service. Tracy Krosko from our sister network, Fox Business, is here with how they're reassuring their big money investors. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Heather. AT&T trying to get into other businesses besides wireless and traditional pay TV. So they're rolling out this new new video streaming service. 3 versions of it late next year. They're going to have original content, movies, TV. They're also going to be having things from Warner Brothers, Turner, and HBO. As you said, this will take on Netflix. It will also take on Disney's new streaming service. And they didn't say, though, how much exactly it would cost or which movies and TV shows would be featured in each of the tiers. But yes, this is something that the big shareholders hoping that will make some money for AT&T. Of course, they're trying to capitalize on that big acquisition they just had of Time Warner. So we will see if it works for them.
Yet another way to watch more TV or more videos. So let's talk about this, though. The country's first biometric terminal. What is that, first of all? And they're using it in Atlanta?
Yes, and starting tomorrow for international flights leaving from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, you're going to be able to take advantage of this if you're flying on Delta. So this is essentially a facial recognition technology. You'll be able to use this from the curb all the way to the gate. So you check in with your passport before you get to the airport, or you can do it at one of the kiosks when you arrive. And then from every step of the way, instead of having to pull out your passport, you're just going to look into a kiosk. It will scan your face and then match up with your passport, your visa documents in the Customs and Border Protection database that they have there. So Delta says this will help you save time. Of course, this is for those international Delta flights. The next hub that they're rolling this out to, Detroit. So first Atlanta, then Detroit.
All right, we'll see how it works in Atlanta first.
Yes.
Tracy Krosko live for us. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, an unverified report by The Guardian linking WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange and former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort has the media in a frenzy, despite threats of a lawsuit from both men and a lack of evidence to confirm it.
Of course, the implications are explosive, right?
If it proves to be accurate, it would be a kind of smoking gun for Robert Mueller and for the entire Russian affair.
What the heck would he been doing having that meeting if it actually happened?
If. So does this prove the media will run with anything that has to do with Trump and Russia? Here to debate is Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright and the founder of the Big Tent Republicans PAC, Tony Lazzaro. Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
All right. So
Thanks,
we can bring this up as we begin. We mentioned Julian Assange saying he's going to sue. Paul Manafort says, amongst other things, totally false, deliberately libelous. And then you heard the mainstream media's reaction. Antoine, I'll start with you. What do you think about this? I mean, will they just go with anything at this point?
No, but I think the media has a role to play. I think the general public has a role to play, but I think it must be somewhat done where everyone is respected through this process. Look, I think the media has a responsibility to report the news, to be on point with the report. But in this environment where you have the right-wing media trying to undermine everything that comes up that's not pro-Trump or pro his agenda, I think they have to be extra careful to get the facts right and not speculate, because it just feeds into the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Tony? They don't seem a whole lot concerned about facts or people saying this is absolutely, totally not true.
Well, there just are no facts. The mainstream media in this country has become this tabloid where basically they are the new Alex Jones, where any Republican or anyone who's had anything to do with the president in the last decade is some type of criminal now. And there's no facts, and this stuff is all conspiracy theories. And is the media going to report every single conspiracy theory they hear now, or are they going to stick to actual facts? And that's the frustration that Republicans like me are just sick of.
Antoine, it is factually correct to say that there's no evidence that he entered the Ecuadorian embassy. People were supposed to log in. There was no evidence of that. There's no evidence from his passport either. I mean, was it the media's responsibility to try to look into those facts before they reported this bogus article coming off of The Guardian?
I'll go on Friday morning repeat. I think the media in this environment has to be extra careful about getting the facts right, because there will be this effort, like Tony just did, to say, hey, it's not true. The media is just the anti-Trump, etc. And that's not true. What we know about all of this between Trump and Russia is that there have been some issues. There have been some convictions. There have been some charges. And so I think they should just stick with the facts as they come out. Don't speculate. Don't say if. Don't say perhaps. You know, stick to what happens when the news come out. And I think that will put a real chill on this notion that the media is anti-Trump, because the media is pro-Trump in so many ways.
Tony, as for those charges, nothing still related to collusion.
Right. And yeah, I do agree with Antoine. They do need to stick to the facts. The fact is simply, though, that there is no Russian collusion, and reporting on Russian collusion every single day does not help the American people find more jobs, grow the economy, and get better health care in this country. That's what the American people care about. If they're
you say that in one breath while your president tweets another. Your president consistently brings up the subject matter on Twitter. Look, he's failed to articulate his successes, and therefore the media runs with the things he tweets. So partly that's his fault for not wanting to press the gas on his agenda. But I think it's Friday morning political malpractice for you to say there's no collusion, because guess what? We don't know. That's why it's so important for this investigation to continue to the end, so we can figure out the facts. It works both ways.
All right. Well, thank you.
$30 million.
All right. Thank you, Antoine, Tony. We appreciate both of you this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Well, the time now is about 8 minutes until the top of the hour. And flag on fire, a veteran targeted just for supporting the president. How one of the first sons just stepped in to help. This is a great story. You want to hear it. And a bumbling break-in. Wait until you see what happens to this burglar after trying to squeeze through a hole. And stuff, and then right down the street, of course, the Rockefeller Christmas tree. So come by and visit us if you're in the area. Well, do you remember this veteran? This is a really great story, who said that vandals burned his Trump 2020 flag. He's getting a new one, courtesy of Eric Trump. The president's son tweeting, quote, "Gus, your replacement flag is in the mail. If the person is classless enough to do it again, just let us know. We will send you as many replacement flags as you need." Well, Gus Klein says that someone ripped his Trump 2020 flag from his Vermont yard and set it on fire. So good ending. Well, an Army reservist is making music once again after his trumpet was stolen on Veterans Day. Matt Miller says the trumpet was right by his side during a tour in Iraq, even playing at funerals for fellow soldiers. But now a Wisconsin musical instrument manufacturer is gifting him a brand new one just in time for the holidays. Love stories like that. Well, just enough time left for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And up first, the good. Golden State Warriors superstar Steph Curry now responding to a letter penned by this 9-year-old fan. She wrote to him about her disappointment that Under Armour's website was only selling his new shoes in boys' sizes. Well, Curry publishing a handwritten letter in response saying that it's being corrected, and he is personally sending her a pair of sneakers. Good for him. And the bad, more than 200 runners are banned from a half marathon for life after they're caught cheating. Look inside the red circle there. Traffic cameras capturing the runners taking a shortcut through the trees in China. Some of them actually even hired people to run for them. Not the way to do it. And finally, the ugly, an accused burglar caught with his pants down, literally. Surveillance video showing him losing his shorts after crawling through a wall to get inside a Florida car dealership. He got away with a generator, and he's still on the loose. Don't know if it's with or without pants. Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox & Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Have a great weekend. Fox & Friends First continues right now. Bye-bye.